All right, I read through this so-called January 6th charging document indicting Donald Trump on 4 counts, 2 counts of obstruction, 2 counts of conspiracy. This is a complete embarrassment. At this point, they might as well hang a banner over that main entrance to the Department of Justice building tonight, covering the credo with Biden 2024. Now, if this Democrat special counsel, Jack Smith, was ever a serious lawyer, well, he lost that distinction tonight. He now has the sole distinction of being just another political hack.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021, was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. Since the attack on our capital, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day. This case is brought consistent with that commitment.
Well, by listening to this guy, you would think that Trump himself was smashing through the glass at the Capitol that day.
That was one of the most demagogic presentations I've ever seen in a high-profile criminal case. Anyone who listened to that, any normal person reacting to that, would assume that Trump was alleged to have carried out the Capitol riot.
This is the criminalization of disinformation. In order to get a conviction, he will have to use material that, in my view, is clearly protected by the First Amendment.
Now, this case should never survive a motion to dismiss, a motion for summary judgment. But will Judge Tanya Chutkan, an Obama judge, ever do the right thing? I want to remind you tonight that she worked for Hunter Biden's law firm at one point, Boies and Schiller. We'll have more on that at a later date, but I have my doubts about her. Trump said nothing and did nothing to trigger any criminal charge on January 6th, any. His crime was believing and saying that the election was rigged. That's what they want to send him to jail for. Now, excuse me. How is that any different from when the Democrats complained that things were rigged in 2016 or in 2000 after Bush v. Gore? And for that matter, why wasn't Stacey Abrams ever charged for calling her loss a fraud in the Georgia governor's race? And while we're at it, why today? Why did Jack Smith decide to hand down this absurd political diatribe today? Well, I'm sure the timing is purely coincidental. Now, not only is Biden at 40% approval alone now in that new CBS poll, he's plummeting in the polls against Trump, basically even across the country. And Trump is dominating, meanwhile, in the GOP primary. It doesn't look like anyone's going to be able to stop him right now. But after yesterday's Devin Archer testimony, we now can all see with our own eyes that Joe Biden is wobbling under the weight of his own longstanding corruption. The Bidens have been on the take for years, getting rich off selling influence. And Trump's crime is disagreeing with the outcome of an election? What, complaining to a governor over the phone? Speaking at a rally? We all know what this is. This is just another in a long line of political hit jobs under the guise of federal law enforcement. We care about the system. They've charged grandmothers and military vets who merely walked into the Capitol through an open door. And they did that to send a message to the public at large. Do not even think about standing up for someone like Donald Trump again. Don't think about it. We could send you to jail. And now they're indicting a former president of the United States to protect Biden and the entire D.C. establishment from scrutiny. The DOJ does not care. about what's happening in this country right now, where real crime is running wild, or that Chinese spies are crawling all over the place, they don't bring the same fanfare, the same emotion to tackling human trafficking or the fentanyl explosion. Jack Smith and Merrick Garland have one overriding goal: dragging the decrepit Joe Biden across the finish line in the next election. And yes, by any means necessary. The DOJ is effectively the Biden campaign headquarters at this point. They have nothing else. Of course, he's not going to run a traditional campaign or really campaign like we have gotten used to serious candidates campaigning. He can barely stay awake during a podcast. If the DOJ can actually get away with this, then anyone who ever speaks out against the DC establishment and does so forcefully, anyone who takes a stand on issues from China to the border to trade, they're all vulnerable.